Did you guys know that you could whip up bakery quality cakes in 10 minutes or less using no special equipment, no hard to find ingredients, and this pan? Today I'm going to show you 3 recipes that you really need to make right now, and you'll thank me later. You're watching Homestead Wish. Okay guys, we're going to start out with what I think is the simplest cake recipe first, which is our white chocolate raspberry cake. So what I'm going to do in this bowl, I'm just going to mix our dry ingredients. So we're starting out with 2 cups of all-purpose flour, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And we're just going to give that a little bit of a whisk to mix them around. Okay, we're going to set this aside for now. Into a separate bowl, we're going to add 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 2 large eggs, and these are my own chicken eggs, which is why they're a little bit of a different color. They're from my Easter egg chickens. And a 1/2 cup or 1 stick of melted butter. You can use a whisk to mix this up. I'm going to use my hand mixer today. And now we're just going to combine the wet and the dry ingredients. I almost forgot, guys, I needed a 1/2 cup of milk also. All right, now I'll get back to mixing. All right, that looks wonderful. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fold in our chocolate chips and our raspberries. 3/4 cup of white chocolate chips and 1 cup of beautiful raspberries. And I'm just folding it in gently. Trying not to break up the raspberries if I can. But if you do, it's fine. It's not a problem. And the batter is super thick, so I don't think you're going to have to worry about your berries sinking down to the bottom of your cake, because sometimes I know if you add berries or things like that, fresh berries, to your cake batter, sometimes they will sink to the bottom and you'll end up with all of the fruit at the bottom of your cake. I don't think that's going to be a problem here. This is the loaf pan I'm using. It's a fancy dancy one from Walmart, but you can use any standard size loaf pan, 9-inch by 5-inch, I believe, is what all of these recipes call for. I'm giving mine a good spritz with some nonstick spray, and I'm popping all of the mixture right into it. And I'm just smoothing out the top. As much as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect, guys. This will go into a 350-degree oven for 50 minutes. So while my first cake is in the oven, we're going to get started on our second. And we're making a cherry almond cake. All the recipes start out in a similar way. So we're mixing our dry ingredients in a bowl and setting that aside. In here I have 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. So now we're going to get our wet ingredients ready. So in this bowl I have 1 stick of softened butter. Mine's kind of melted, but whatever. Melted or softened, whatever you choose. And 3/4 cup of granulated sugar. And I'm going to mix that well with my hand mixer till it's light and fluffy. To our butter and sugar mixture, we're going to add 2 eggs, 1 at a time, beating well after each. This cake recipe also calls for a half a cup of milk, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and a half of a teaspoon of almond extract. This is a 1/4 teaspoon, so I'm adding 2. Okay, give that a mixy mix. Okay, at this point, we're going to add our dry ingredients in, just like we did with the last cake. And we're going to mix that well. At this point, guys, we're going to fold in our cherries. So where I live, it is not cherry season. There are no fresh cherries around. So I substituted a can. This is what I bought. They're not sweetened. It's just whole pitted cherries in a can. And it calls for 1 cup, and that's just about what came in the can was 1 cup. And this is what they look like if you've never used them. And they're very tasty, actually. I tried one. And the recipe says you can coat the cherries with a little bit of flour to prevent them from sinking to the bottom. Again, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to dump them in and hope for the best. So we'll see. I'm just going to fold them in. Okay, cherries are nice and coated with the batter. For this one, I'm using my USA pan. It's another 9 by 5 inch pan, and I'm just going to spray it, again, really liberally with cooking spray before I put the batter in. Just smooth it out once it's in the pan. And this will go into a 350-degree oven for 45 to 50 minutes. All right, I just took my first cake out of the oven. That looks beautiful, doesn't it? Wow. I am going to do the toothpick test to make sure to show you guys that it's done. And it's very hot. So insert a toothpick into the center of your cake. Pull it out. If there's no wet batter or uncooked batter on the toothpick, then your cake's done. What I'm going to do now is set this on a wire rack to cool, and then we'll make a glaze for it. All right, guys, our cherry almond cake is done. Onto a wire rack to cool. Okay, guys, well, my first 2 cakes are cooling behind me. I'm going to get started on our last and final cake, and probably my favorite. It's a chocolate peanut butter stuffed loaf cake. And just like the first 2, we're going to mix our dry ingredients in a bowl and set that aside, so I'll bring you in. This recipe starts off with 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour, cocoa powder, 1/2 cup, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 of a teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/2 of a teaspoon of salt. Give it a quick mix to combine and set that aside. Next, we're going to cream our butter and sugar together. So in here I have 1 stick of butter, or 1/2 cup, and 1 cup of sugar. 2 large eggs, 1/2 cup of milk. This recipe is slightly different than the first 2. This batter includes a 1/2 cup of sour cream. Mix to combine. At this stage, our batter's pretty thin, and that's normal. And we're going to add in our dry ingredients. Okay, at this point, our batter is nice and thick and can go into your loaf pan if you want to make it right now. I did grease, and I put a piece of parchment on my loaf pan because I'm worried about this one sticking. But we have to get to the peanut butter part of the chocolate peanut butter loaf, right? So I'm using the help of store-bought Reese's peanut butter cups. You could definitely, by all means, make your own peanut butter filling and put it in the freezer before you put it in your loaf cake. But I didn't feel like doing that today, so we're using these instead. And I want the peanut butter in 2 layers in this cake, so I'm going to put about 1/3 of the batter into our pan and then layer some of the peanut butter cups in. So I just want to show you what I'm doing. I have the extra stuffed peanut butter cups for the bottom layer, and I'm just placing them right into the loaf batter. They can be touching each other. You really want them very close to each other. And if you have to cut them in half to fit them in, by all means, go ahead and do that. Okay, then I'm going to top with the next third of our batter to cover the peanut butter cups. I'm going to place more peanut butter cups on top of the last layer. Okay, our last little bit of batter is going to go right on top of here. All right, this is ready to go in a 350-degree oven for 50 to 60 minutes. I'm assuming it's going to take closer to the 60 minutes, but you got to check it after 50. Our cakes are done and they came out absolutely beautiful. I'm going to whip up a quick glaze to go on each of them, but you absolutely do not have to do that. Just a little sprinkling of powdered sugar and you can call it a day. I'll put the glaze recipe somewhere on the screen or in the description box for you guys if you're interested. It's just powdered sugar, milk, and some sort of extract, whatever you want to flavor it with. I'm also going to make a quick ganache for my chocolate peanut butter bread, and that is just heavy cream and chocolate chips melted. So thanks for joining me today, guys. I hope you make any one of these cake recipes. If you have, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a like. Consider subscribing if you want to see more content from me. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye. Take care.